Professor, what is Zero doing to address the serious life-altering health conditions that Australian children and young people who survive cancer currently endure?
So many of those serious and life-altering health conditions are coming because they're currently being treated with old drugs that have been around for 40 or 50 years and that have a single job to do, and that's to stop rapidly dividing cells from dividing. That's fine if it's in an adult where most of the cells that are dividing are either the tumour cells. It's not fine because their hair falls out and they get gut symptoms and all the side effects, but they're manageable. In children where it's actually that organs are rapidly growing, you can get damage, permanent damage, to organs such as the heart from chemotherapeutic drugs, which are attacking them simply because they're growing rapidly. They're not smart drugs, they're not targeted drugs. So part of what Zero is doing is being able to identify these molecular targets in children where we can treat these children with drugs that only target the tumour cells but not the normal growing cells of the child's body. So this process of matching drug to target is a key aspect, it's a fundamental of Zero. And we're able to do that, and we hope that through that we will be able to have access of children to more of these targeted therapies and less of the traditional, or to be able to reduce the doses of the more traditional chemotherapeutic drugs, which is so toxic to these growing tissues. We also have a large survivorship program and a psychosocial program that looks at the psychosocial aspects of cancer, and those are helping provide information about how to deal with, that doesn't solve the problem of getting those side effects, but more how to deal with them, how to manage with them. And we certainly need a greater focus on survivorship, because for these children, they may have, if they're cured, 50, 60 years of living with these side effects. And the data is that a third of these patients that are treated and survive cancer will have some sort of serious lifelong effect.
If new treatments for children developed in academia, how are these commercialised and equitably available?
So the way that works is that you do the primary research until a certain point that it works, and then you engage with pharma to license it. Research institutes aren't in the business of personally taking drugs to market. Certainly the one that I work in isn't. But the model is to take them to a certain point where you grow the value proposition for pharma and you can demonstrate that there's a product that they're going to be interested in, and then you license it to pharma, and then it becomes available through pharma to the market. And if you have these sorts of incentives in place where pharmaceutical companies actually have to develop pediatric plans, then you can have the way that becomes available for all children. And where there are targets in common between pediatric and adult cancers, which, as I mentioned, was about 50% of the case, the best of all possible worlds is that these new drugs that are developed will have both an adult and a pediatric indication, so it will be available right across the cancer spectrum.
Are you aware of similar programs that are based on your comprehensive model and moonshot goals for adults?
There are many components of what we do that are run by other organisations. So, for example, Omico does sequencing for adult patients with cancer. There are large biological programs looking at risk for different types of cancer. There are preclinical modelling programs, but I am not aware of any single adult program anywhere in the world that has the comprehensiveness of Zero. And that is one of the benefits of working in children's cancer, because our numbers are small, and therefore we can look at programs that are national, that capture every child, that make these opportunities available to every child, and we can pioneer them, advocate for them, and then be at the vanguard of how these can then be translated into either older young people, as we've heard this morning through Canteen, or into the adult populations. But as yet, I'm certainly not aware of anything that is as comprehensive as this anywhere in the world, which is why we're so proud of it, but also where we see the opportunities for what this can deliver for the broader cancer community.
And why do you think events like CanForum are important?
Events like this are incredibly important. They bring together the people who understand the challenge. They bring together the people who have the potential to do something about the challenge. They bring together people who can advocate for the change that is needed to make sure that we can reduce the burden of cancer on our community, for families, for patients, for the economy, for the broader community. CanForum is shining a spotlight on the enormity of the challenges that we face, but also showing that if we come together as a community with our politicians who are here today and hearing about the challenges and getting them to commit to this community, that they want to work with the community to solve these challenges. It's only in these forums, scientists, doctors, patients, families, government, working together that will solve these problems.
And last question, what does a better world for rare look like to you?
A better world for rare, for me, through the lens of young people with cancer, is that the platform that we've developed, this comprehensive platform for making personalised treatment recommendations for children with cancer, that this comprehensive genomic profiling gets integrated into the health system as standard of care, that this becomes available to every young person in the country with cancer, that it's not going from tranche to tranche of research funding, but that those elements of it which are ready to transition into the health system where there's proven clinical benefit, where they've demonstrably changed the model of care, that they become health system funded rather than research funded. But that's about working with government to develop that pathway. So that's better. That's better for me, and that funding is there to continue to bringing all of these other innovations with their enormous potential for increasing survival rates to fruition, and then gradually transitioning them into the health system so that that pathway is developed so that every young person can get the benefits of these new innovations.